With that, welcome you inside this week opening edition of Big Ten Today, fueled by Gatorade. I'm your host, Rick Pizzo. Coming up on the show, we will hear from the folks of UCLA baseball as the Bruins sweep away UTSA in the Super Regionals over the weekend. UCLA headed back to the College World Series for the first time since 2013. Also marks the Big Ten's first trip to Omaha since Michigan made it 6 years ago. But we begin today with the big story. It is a developing story, one that we have been following for months on end. And over the course of the weekend, as Ross Dellinger posted to his X account, California judge Claudia Wilkin approved a 10-year House settlement. Very involved, very complicated, but at day's end, the most impactful decision here: colleges and universities are now in a direct pay-for-play model where schools can pay its athletes directly. The Big Ten Conference offered this quote in response to that settlement: "We look forward to implementing this historic settlement designed to bring stability, integrity, and competitive balance to college athletics while increasing both scholarship and revenue opportunities for student athletes in all sports." End quote. For more perspective on this, welcome in the man who we just quoted with one of his X posts, Ross Dellinger. Ross, this is no surprise. I spoke with a bunch of ADs at the Big Ten Summit in May. They all said this was inevitable. They expected it. They have been preparing their athletic departments for exactly this decision. So how quickly, how significantly does this affect college sports, and in what obvious way do we see it manifested?
Well, we've already seen it, I think, affect college sports, right? Because like you said, I think Big Ten administrators, as well as most of those in the power conferences and plenty of those and also in just all of D1, have been preparing for this to happen now for probably a year, right? Almost over, a little bit over a year, actually. It was late May last year when the NCAA and the power conferences kind of all authorized this to happen, this settlement to happen. So the courts move very slowly. So the settlement approval took this long. And while this was happening, while this kind of public thing was happening, where this court case was kind of marching toward a settlement, in the background, everybody was preparing for it, right? All these schools were bracing for it. And when I say bracing for it, it is $20.5 million in additional revenue that schools will have to either come up with or use, if they have some reserves or anything like that, to pay athletes starting July 1. And so that's the cap, is $20.5 million, and schools will be able to distribute that however they see to do it across all of their college athletic department. Now this will, when you pay players directly, right, it's going to impact everything else, right? And most of that $20.5 million at most places will be spent on football and men's basketball. 90% of it will probably go to those two sports. Those are the revenue-generating sports, and they'll get most of that revenue that they have generated. And so that money that was once used to pay coaches, administrators, fund facilities projects, and like I mentioned earlier, the salaries, things like that, or put in reserve or used for Olympic sports, is now being kind of siphoned off to basically compensate football and basketball. So you're going to have some impacts to that. And we're going to see it at the Olympic sport, level. Unfortunately, you're going to see a reduction in funding and resources potentially to some of those sports. And that's a concern from administrators you hear many about over the last year. You've heard plenty about the fear of the impact of Olympic sport. But that's only one of so many other things that this could set off, right? I mean, many people also believe that this kind of starts college athletics down the path to some kind of collective bargaining employment model, and maybe we could see that happen at some point. So there's just all kind of things that this will impact across college athletics.
Ross, we heard the term competitive balance. That's one of the things the Big Ten hopes this drives. But then there are others who say it's a matter of the rich getting richer, because we still wonder, what does this mean for NIL and collectives at those schools that never had money issues? So Are there a group of schools or a type of school, university, athletic department that benefits more from this settlement than others?
Well, that's a great question, and I think you have to break up the athlete compensation and benefits into three different buckets, right? For a while, we've had the athletic scholarship bucket for decades, right? So you still have athletic scholarships. And you have the expansion of rosters, right, that allows schools to scholarship an entire roster. So you have that bucket, athletic scholarships. Then you have a second bucket that recently arrived about 4 years ago called NIL, right? So third-party NIL that's developed into maybe, you might say, booster back salaries to players. That's what's happened with that bucket. And then you have the third bucket, and it's the new bucket. It is direct compensation from schools to athletes in the form of revenue share. And basically, it's the schools paying for the athletes' NIL rights. So you have these three buckets that are going to be happening all at one time. And it's the second bucket, NIL, in this future new model. As you mentioned, they're asking about collectives, right? Booster collectives, which have funded a lot of the NIL the last few years. What will happen to that bucket? We really don't know. Right, there is a new enforcement entity of this new kind of rev share world, and it will enforce and kind of oversee the revenue share piece of this. And underneath it is a clearinghouse. It's an NIL clearinghouse, and its job is to make sure that all deals that athletes strike outside of the school revenue share that they get, and outside of the scholarship, obviously, they get from the school, all third-party NIL deals, all these endorsement commercial opportunities are real and not just kind of a phony type booster deal that we've seen the last several years. So will that clearinghouse work? That's the big question. If the clearinghouse works, then you're going to have more of what the Big Ten statement mentioned, right? Competitive equity. You're going to have more competitive equity if the clearinghouse does work, because then those with the biggest boosters, right, won't have the advantage that maybe they did the last few years. But there's definitely some legal questions on the clearinghouse. You know, players are supposed to submit all their NIL deals that are above $600 into this Deloitte-run clearinghouse. Deloitte is running and managing kind of the clearinghouse. They've come up with a logarithm for kind of fair market value and have set compensation range to different NIL deals. And so these deals have to meet the compensation range. If they go outside of it, they're deemed to be phony, and the athletes are ruled ineligible. So again, we just don't know if how strict this clearinghouse will be. Can it withstand legal challenges? Because there will almost certainly be lawsuits and legal challenges. But I think everybody in college athletics is really hoping it works so you can have some sort of competitive equity.
Unbelievable amount and depth of information. Great stuff, Ross. Who knew we needed legal degrees, actuarial degrees? Journalism's not just going to get it done in this business and the way that we cover college sports anymore. Ross Dellinger, appreciate your time, your insight. I know we'll speak with you much more often on this topic in the coming days and weeks.
Thanks.
UCLA is off to its first College World Series since 2013, has the Big Ten back in Omaha for the first time since 2019. Bruins swept UTSA over the weekend, allowing just 2 runs and 2 super regional victories, a team laden with sophomore stars. Head coach John Savage thought his squad would peak in 2026. Apparently, there's no need to wait quite that long. Thanks to outstanding pitching performances and key hits, the Bruins now continue their unbeaten NCAA run later this week in Omaha, one of the hottest teams in the country. UCLA has outscored its 5 tourney opponents by a combined 34 runs. Yes, it all resets at the series, but there's plenty of reason to now believe in UCLA's national championship hopes.
I think a big deal was the Big Ten tournament, you know, them experiencing the ballpark. We were there for a week, 7 nights, I think. And I think they got a little taste of it and said, you know what, I want to come back. And I think, you know, we've always been a really good postseason team, in all honesty. If you look at the record and you look at the wins, and, you know, we've won a lot of games in the postseason. We just haven't been back to Omaha the last 12 years, and that's, you know, that's challenging and that's hurtful in a lot of ways. But at the same time, I think I can use my experience, you know, letting them know that, you know, enjoy the moment, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. This team's looking forward to the next game, the next challenge. And that's what's so fun about this team, is that they don't care, you know, who they play, where they play, what time they play.
This is surreal to me. It's just something that I've dreamed of for as long as I can remember. And then just getting back there and getting to go experience that a couple of years ago just added that much more fire to the dream. And I mean, I haven't wrapped my head around it. I mean, it obviously just happened, but it's just something that I'm never going to forget. But I mean, we're not done yet. I mean, we're going there to play our game of baseball and, you know, just take it to other teams. So I'm looking forward to that.
More good Bruin vibes found in these numbers, courtesy of Gatorade Game Leaders. UCLA making trip number 6 to the College World Series, with 4 of those appearances coming under current head coach John Savage. The Bruins did not allow a run in the last 16 innings of their super sweep, finishing things off with the program's largest ever margin of victory in a single super regional game.
Our next award is truly special. It's presented to a coach who, in the eyes of their peers, had made the greatest contribution to swimming and diving. We are excited to honor Adam Soldati.
Good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank the College Swim Coaches Association for this incredible honor. It's deeply meaningful to receive this recognition from a community I've admired and been impacted by for so many years. Purdue Nation, thank you for believing in me. When I first got to Purdue in 2005, I walked into that facility and I could begin to visualize, like, what could this place become? This place had the makings. I felt like I could turn this place into one of the greatest. I think together, along with lots of great people and lots of great staff, we were able to achieve that.
Adam is definitely a unique, one-of-a-kind coach.
Like backs and gators, just get your arms through a little bit earlier, like light, and boom, get them through, and you were just a little slow. And
Adam was never focused on the accolades, but his accolades speak for himself. He's one of the most decorated Big Ten coaches, not just in diving, but in all of sport. The amount of Big Ten Coaches of the Year, NCAA Coach of the Year, speaks to what he does on the pool deck every day.
Adam's philosophy has always been, his job is not to create a champion, his job is to create an atmosphere where you can become a champion. And he's done that. Multiple Olympians, Olympic medals. This guy's pretty special.
sometimes when I look at those numbers, I'm like, I don't even know how that happened. God's been very gracious to allow us to experience a lot of success. In 2022, 23, somewhere in there, I did have some pain in my right hand. When I would lift weights or I would do certain things, there was a certain level of pain. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't really look into it much. And then one of my divers at a competition at home, we were doing our pre-meet huddle. And one of my divers said, "What's wrong with your hand?" I looked at my hands, and it was clear that my right hand and beginning to go up my forearm a little bit was wasting away, degenerating. I was going through some atrophy. I went through a series of MRIs. I went through, lots of EMGs my whole body. And then seeing an additional neurologist in Chicago, and they did some genetic testing. It was February 13th of 2024 at Rush Medical Center. And they say you have ALS. Your motor neurons that are supplying the health of your muscles to move, to breathe, are dying.
Is there a cure for this?
Not that I'm aware of. No. It's a crushing blow to hear. They're giving you the average statistics of things like this, like average lifespan is 3 to 5 years, and 80% of people die within the first 2 years. And whether that was all true, I mean, this is some of the stuff you're hearing, and you're just kind of, you just get, it's a bit of a shock.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around like what's happening. I have no framework at all for this disease. I know nothing really about it. So when the doctor starts talking about months, I like took my breath away, because that was not on my radar. I was not expecting that. I had no idea what it was that we were about to face.
It's certainly overwhelming. I think what made it very emotional and overwhelming was seeing how things like this are going to affect the people that are closest to you. I've got 6 kids. My dear, sweet wife, Kimiko. The team.
There was a point in time where there was a bit of a shift for Adam. You kind of shift from mourning and grieving to, okay, what can I do? And more than that, we shifted from preparing to die to fighting to live.
For me, maybe I'm arrogant enough, I'm sitting in there like, all right, let's go. What do we got to do? Like, let's get after this. I decided, well, I'm going to step out of coaching. One of the things with ALS, it's a battle that I have to fight on a daily basis. How do I either slow this progression down, reverse this progression? There's anywhere from 17 to 20, 20-ish pills in each one of these boxes. Different supplements from vitamin C and vitamin D to some ATP, various different things. 60, 70 pills a day. We've decided to investigate some different holistic and integrative measures to try to just make my body as healthy as it can to fight against this.
You ready, Adam?
Yeah. We've done everything we can, from hyperbaric oxygen therapy to infrared saunas. You go through kind of a major detox stage. Super thankful that from when we started this thing a year ago, we've been able to really correct a lot of the numbers, kind of eliminate some of the stuff in my body that didn't seem to be helping it. We're just doing the best we can to battle it on the front end and prepare the best we can for knowing some of the changes that could come down the road.
You look at Adam, he's in the best shape of his life, and he feels the best that he ever has. At the same time, you also know what ALS can do. Your body is deteriorating little by little, and a month from now, he can look totally different than he does now. And so I think that's what's hard about this disease. As good as he is now, you don't know what the next 6 months look like.
As many of you know, I was diagnosed with ALS, maybe better known as Lou Gehrig disease. It's a brutal disease, one that forces you to ask difficult questions and face even more difficult truths. But in the midst of it, God has given me the gift of clarity. Clarity about what really matters.
Why are you dressed up?
How are you?
Why are you dressed up?
Clarity that the small, often overlooked moments the ones we're more likely to rush past, are the ones we're meant to cherish. These moments are gifts. Don't miss the moments that matter.
Unbelievable story, amazing perspective from Adam Soldati, as we wish him and his entire family all the best. That'll do it for this edition of Big Ten Today. I'm Rick Pizzo. As always, we appreciate you spending time with us here on the Big Ten Network.